Humans are first primitive. Essentially, there are two: the power-hungry dominant and the loyal synergists, the leader and the follower. Divided, the system crumbles, but combined, people can do greatness. Humans are, of course, second human. Never has there been a perfect harmony of ruler and people, even mind and body. But in history, people get close. Let us explore these scenarios, for in them, humans achieve the most. Who sits on the helm of these race-launching periods? What makes the finest leader? A leader, by definition, is the person who leads or commands a group, organization, or country. For this explanation of a great leader, one must not only lead their group, they must bring change. They must not only motivate the people, they must bring the group together to make a whole greater than the sum of its parts. Thus, a great leader must bring revolutionary action. Though many speculate that any human can rise to the challenge of leadership, some of history's best generals and politicians are born with a unique mind. This is to say, a born leader exhibits a different brain mapping. At New York's prestigious school, West Point, the American Psychological Association's Journal of Applied Psychology tested 103 male students in search of a correlation between mental construction and mental control. They discovered, using an electronic brain scan capable of splitting the regions of the cerebellum, that the men with more outstanding leadership contributions had more gray matter in specific areas. Frontal cortex regions associated with self-regulation, decision-making, and memory were significantly more developed than those of less leaderly personas. The journal attributes the development to simple genetic control of metabolistic growth. Thus, leaders can be born. In fact, the research team found that when undergoing a simulated high-risk situation, those who displayed those brain enlargements showed better decision-making in the situations. Often, a leader must make these tough decisions, and an example is Mr. George Washington, so-called father of the American Revolution. Washington displayed qualities of differentiated brain mapping during his years as a general. For example, at Braddock's defeat, General Washington had 2 horses shot from beneath him and found himself next to a mortally wounded General Braddock. Washington, taking command, quickly developed a plan and issued a successful retreat after such a chaotic experience. Time after time, the American Revolution has small skirmishes that require the mind of a true leader to react to. Washington therefore transitively displays a unique brain mapping as observed in West Point. This proved quite impressive, notes a French officer.
I cannot insist too strongly how surprised I was by the American army. It is truly incredible that the troops, almost naked, poorly paid and composed of old men and children and Negroes, should behave so well on the march and under fire.
So Washington was destined for greatness since birth, and has forever inspired hope and revolution from his pure tactics. One can exhibit ideal brain mapping, a presence that sways a crowd. Yet without a people who wish to be swayed, that leader and his ideals with him are stagnant. In fact, a lesser worker or intelligent being may be more effective if he feeds the people what they want to gnaw on. As Mr. Maccabi of Harvard says,
well, for leaders to lead, they need passion and the ability to gain followers. And followers, they must be as driven as the leaders to lead. And we see 2 kinds of followers. We have the followers who are going to follow a leader due to a more logical gain, something like wealth or status. And then we have the irrational followers, and these guys, they work closer to the brain stem. That's where their ideas come from. And they do so on emotional feelings of hatred or maybe unconscious love.
As for the irrational, look at the Germans with one of the most hated men ever, Adolf Hitler. Though a terrible general braving the immensely destructive Russian winter, and on all accounts morally unstable even in an era of segregation, he had the support of nearly every German. Suffering of the Great Depression and pulling off of the great loss of World War I, the Germans needed hope, and Hitler filled the Germans instead with an irrational hatred of a race, that being the Jews. This fuel was so powerful and so satisfying, the people loved it. Soon, Hitler had the love, the will, and the support of his country. With these, he thought he could have the world. What he certainly did have was a leadership nugget of gold. A dynamic transference, theorized by neurologist Sigmund Freud. Two independent sections of a person's brain can coincide, creating a powerful bond.
A motivational set of ideas compounding a leader can only push a man when it stigmates an identical cathode of brain neurons to another particular love or passion prior. There is no love that does not reproduce infantile stereotypes.
Hitler played these just right, connecting the anger of German suffering to an anger of the Jewish community, igniting enormous conflict on all fronts. If dynamic transference must commence for a leader to serve well scientifically, then the entirety of leadership psychologically is empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. It makes logical sense. Humans can latch onto any feeling to which they can relate. A great leader must establish this empathy into each and every human being, easily achievable through passion, well-rounded decision-making that other humans can understand. But not only must the followers become one with the leader, it is only conceivable if the leader holds empathy for the follower. To help explain this biconditional scenario, empathy itself, according to The Secret, a book written by Rhonda Barney, can be done through an anagram. Serve. S. See the future. E. Engage and develop others. R. Reinvent cautiously. V. Value results in relationships. And E. Embody the values. A perfect example of serve is the much-hailed 16th President of the United States, a man who personally put the crux of his politics on the people, Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln saw the future of the United States in jeopardy during the Civil War. If the man did not eliminate slavery, he understood that the people would again split over the issue, violently. But this alone is merely leader empathy. Lincoln engaged and developed others. During his controversial writ of habeas corpus, he asked for the people's empathy, politicians and citizens alike.
Do we recognize every single liberty and let the government fall? Or do we violate one in order to save that government?
Yet he reinvented the nation cautiously, pushing the Emancipation Proclamation, abolishing slavery in the South, before relinquishing the country of slavery itself with the 13th Amendment. People adored the president, and their dynamic transference was a direct result of his value of results and relationships, not only by being gradual in slavery abolition, but also in the fact that Lincoln was well known to speak and negotiate with anyone who wandered into his White House. He embodied the values of his people and the Constitution, willing to bribe, swindle, or cheat in his laws, generally unfavorable, but it meant the greater good of the people. Lincoln and the people's empathetic harmony was beautiful and even more evident in the final piece. Good versus evil. Humans will always follow this struggle. It serves as a true direct transference that any incredible leader will connect to their cause. Look anywhere in human life. Entertainment. The Shawshank Redemption holds the highest rating on IMDb. Products. Fair trade food and jewels are most commonly bought. Economics. Caring companies who reach out to the poor gain more customers than those who do not. In Christian religion, and most religions for that matter, there is a continuous struggle between the love and peace of God and the evil terror of Satan. This principle is what 33% of the world holds the universe to be ultimately dictated by. Good versus evil will forever ignite this psychology. This inert empathy may seem common sense, but allow a divergent from human nature, a life lacking of emotion. One can observe the way people, for survival, had to connect and empathize, to unite themselves against physically superior predators. Empathy for that struggle, that root for good, must be the leader for his people, and his people for the leader, bound by empathetic ideals. So, Washington inspired the fight against the evil controlling British for the good of freedom. Hitler summoned the Germans against the, quote, evil Jews for the might and good of Germany. Lincoln's empathetic exchange with his people was one against the moral evil of slavery and for the goodness of a righteous union. This brought forth liberty and, eventually, anti-racism. Thus, a perfect rapport of leader and follower has, does, and shall engender an entirely superior humanity.